Hello and welcome to the Quick News Daily Podcast, where I give you the facts first, no clickbait stories, just real news that matters to real people. Today is Friday, January 15th, and thanks again for choosing Quick News Daily. Man, when I was looking at it, we have even more to cover today than I originally thought. We have that throwback story, a couple of COVID stories, though very different, and some news on the New York City mayor's race. It's some great stuff to end the week, so let's get caught up. So getting in the Wayback Machine, do you remember the name Alexei Navalny? I mentioned it way back in August. He's the Russian opposition leader who was poisoned with a nerve agent, and he ended up getting taken to a hospital in Germany to recover. He had that extensive nerve damage and actually had to be put in a medically induced coma, which is never a good sign. I guess obviously he's feeling a lot better now because he announced that he's going back to Russia this Sunday. He said on Twitter, quote, "There was never a question for me whether to return or not," end quote. And I'm just over here thinking, what the heck do you mean? They poisoned you, man. It's definitely not my cup of tea. I mean, this is a heck of a recovery because he's already been back at work trying to figure out how this happened to him. He's been working with an investigative group called Bellingcat, and together they've found evidence that directly links the Russian FSB, the Federal Security Service, which is like the KGB but supposedly better, air quotes, because it's not the Soviet Union anymore. Sure. The way they found this information out, though, sounds like a morning radio skit. According to them, and they posted audio, they tricked the FSB into admitting that they poisoned Navalny by putting the nerve agent in the seams of his underwear. Okay, hold on a second. First off, how the heck do you trick the 21st century version of the KGB by prank calling them? Second, nerve agents must be no joke if the one almost killed him just by being in the seams of his underwear. You don't even have to ingest it by eating it or having your drink spiked. It just goes right through your skin. His supporters seem to be thinking like I am, because the article says that they were surprised to hear that he's coming back. They're worried that Putin will throw him in prison right away because he's got some issues relating to a conviction from 2014. He was convicted of embezzling $500,000 in US dollars from a Russian subsidiary of some French cosmetics company. He originally got a suspended sentence, but his brother actually got sent to prison. Now they're trying to get him again, saying that he misused donations from his supporters, like they actually care about his supporters who are against Putin. The Russian prosecutors are also saying that he should have to serve that prison sentence because he violated the terms of the sentence by going to Germany. You know, when he was fighting for his life because the Russian government poisoned him? Frankly, I don't think it's hard to connect the dots and figure out these charges are most likely completely fake. If you go against Putin, you either get fake charges to throw you in jail, which is the best case scenario, or you get a nerve agent to the face, or both. Oh, also, can't forget falling out of a window by accident. By accident. You know how you accidentally get shoved out of a window? It happens to me all the time. Just to further prove that point, the European Court for Human Rights has since ruled that the 2014 conviction was unlawful. It does sound like there is real reason to be concerned, because Russia's prison service said that it issued a warrant for his arrest in late December already, so there is real danger. Obviously, if he went against Putin in the first place, he's a way tougher guy than me, but if I were him, I'd get comfy and enjoy Berlin. Well, I guess the Moderna CEO is out on a media tour for some reason because he made some more notable comments at another conference. This time, it was the J.P. Morgan Healthcare Conference. As for his notable comments, they were that he thinks COVID will be around forever. He said, quote, "We are going to live with this virus, we think, forever," end quote. Viruses that are around continuously, like the flu and the common cold, are called endemic viruses. Just thought I'd throw that out there, in case it's a trivia question or you just want to sound smart sometime. Now that was the end of that, but this actually led me down a rabbit hole because this CNBC story had links to new information on the South African virus, as well as two possible new strains that researchers found that originated in the US. For the potentially new US strains, it's the same old story we've been hearing. The mutations seem to be making COVID more contagious, but have no effect on how deadly it is or how well the vaccine will work. I think it's said that one of the strains has only been found in one patient, which is pretty crazy. They said that this one had a mutation that's identical to the UK one, so it made me wonder, are you guys maybe just really tired or something? It's in one person and it's identical to the UK one. Maybe it's just the UK one. Obviously, they're probably sure that it is a new one, but still, that just sounded funny to me. As for the South African strain, it's spread to a couple of other countries now: the UK, France, Switzerland, Japan, Austria, and Zambia. The UK Health Secretary said, quote, "I'm incredibly worried about the South African variant, and that's why we took the action that we did to restrict all flights from South Africa. This is a very, very significant problem, and it's even more of a problem than the UK new variant," end quote. That's scary enough in itself, but he just didn't explain why he said any of this. So, thanks. Thankfully, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, he's the former CDC director that I trust most, said that the South African one is concerning him because it seems to be rejecting antibody drug treatment. So, technically, it could become more deadly. But for what it's worth, the CDC still says that there's no evidence that it causes more severe illness or that it's more deadly, but it's probably just too early. Since this is the common pattern we're seeing, every single new strain is more contagious but not more deadly, I just have to ask, are all of these mutations helping it spread more quickly, or are these changes actually not doing anything in terms of how easy it is to spread, and it's just spreading more quickly because people are being dumb and getting tired of COVID rules? Obviously, there are changes to the virus because it's been confirmed by genetics, but is it actually just some coincidence that it's spreading quickly and they happen to catch the new strain when they tested? I don't know, maybe I sound crazy. Again, not a scientist. The other interesting thing that was in this story about the US variants was about calling these the UK variant or South African variant. And now that I think about it, it's probably just trying to shake the blame now that the US might have some variants. But some expert in the article said that it's not really fair to call the variants by where they're coming from, because it really could have started in another country that just isn't as advanced and isn't looking for these mutations, and it wasn't found until it reached a country that was more scientifically well equipped. So those are some COVID updates. A different type of COVID update here is that yesterday, experts from the World Health Organization arrived in China to investigate the origins of the coronavirus. They're scheduled to meet with their counterparts from China, and the big question is whether they'll visit Wuhan, which is of course ground zero for all of this. This is notable in general because China is suffocating, figuratively, anyone trying to research the origins of the virus. Sure, people in the country can research it, people from China have been the only ones who've been able to so far, and you can research it, but if you want to publish the findings, or even just the data, it has to be approved by this brand new task force that's managed by China's cabinet. The cabinet of the Chinese government is directly commanded by, who else? Chinese President Xi Jinping. So when it comes down to it, that means that research that is published is questionable at best. In case you're wondering what the Chinese people are hearing on their TVs, state media has resorted to pushing conspiracy theories that say the virus is actually from somewhere else, so that's healthy. This secrecy almost certainly led to warnings coming too late, not enough information getting to the World Health Organization, and probably slowed down testing early on. Now, hopefully we'll be able to settle where this came from once and for all. Was it just someone eating an undercooked bat or pangolin? Were they studying coronaviruses in bats and then it accidentally got out? Reputable scientists say that it almost certainly came from bats and got to us through an intermediate animal that they eat from the wet markets over there. But the right-wing theory is that it was a weapon that got out, of course. I can't remember if I said it on the podcast, but I think it came from a bat because of this crazy dream I had way back in February. Maybe I'll revisit that when the WHO here finishes their investigation, but maybe it'll be sooner because that could take a while. So, one of my favorite podcasts I listen to, The New Abnormal with Molly Jong-Fast and Rick Wilson, had a great guest on one of the last episodes. The guest was Scott Galloway, who's a professor at NYU and apparently an expert in the world of big tech. The great part was him explaining why Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey isn't some hero for finally banning Trump permanently, or why Mark Zuckerberg isn't really a great guy, and what Congress can do about all of this. One of the best quotes was when Galloway said, quote, "There is nothing noble There is nothing patriotic, there is nothing civic in Zuckerberg or Dorsey kicking these people off of their platforms. This is them trying to wallpaper over their delay and obfuscation. People who get DUIs typically have driven drunk 200 times before they kill a family or they're pulled over. And these guys have been driving drunk and all of a sudden, a family got killed, and now they're sorry. They deserve 0 effing credit for doing the right thing in the bottom of the 9th inning. End quote. He said that their change of heart in banning these people is a direct result of Democrats winning the Senate, and Dorsey and Zuckerberg realizing that now that Democrats are running things, their companies could be broken up through antitrust lawsuits from the government. They're also suggesting that there's blood on their hands because these 6 people have died from last week's insurrection, but really, a white supremacist killed a protester in Charlottesville way back in 2017, and they didn't do anything then. They also didn't do anything when Trump said, quote, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." Really, the CEOs didn't decide to kick Trump off until they saw that Mitch McConnell wasn't going to be the majority leader anymore. Galloway also suggested that there needs to be a perp walk for these CEOs, and a perp walk is the walk you see on TV when the cops bring the perp to the station in handcuffs in front of all the media so that they're caught on camera, usually in higher profile situations, and it's meant to humiliate and shame them. I think he's right, honestly. He gave a good example. If someone calls a celebrity now and says, "I can get your kid into Harvard if you give me $50,000, the celebrity isn't going to do that anymore because they perp-walked Aunt Becky, Lori Loughlin, and threw her in prison for a couple months. If some CEOs and or board members of these social media companies get punished for what they've let happen on their sites, then other companies will start to shape up as well. He had another explanation of Section 230, which is what we've all been hearing about. He said that it was originally designed to protect smaller companies who didn't have the budget to monitor the content that other people were posting on their platform. He suggested that we should move back to that where it's just for companies who make less than some amount of money who are covered by this. So Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. would actually have to monitor what's on their site, and some small startup who doesn't have the same amount of resources, like Quick News Daily, wouldn't. They already can, but they just don't want to because it cuts into their profits, maybe. He gave an example for YouTube, and I've experienced it firsthand. When I post my shows to YouTube, almost as soon as it's posted, I get a copyright notice from YouTube because I use that 2-second clip from that song from Hamilton.
Never gonna be president now. Never gonna be president now. That's one less thing to worry about. That's one less thing to worry about.
That one. They also get me for playing the 1812 Overture from V for Vendetta at the end of my shows. The 1812 Overture itself is public domain because it was made before, 1920, but I like the one from the movie the best, so I use that one. However, I guess that's copyrighted, so if I made any money on my YouTube videos, that money would go straight to the composer of the V for Vendetta soundtrack. The point of that long example is to show you that if YouTube's AI algorithms can find a 2-second clip of a song from Hamilton in my video, they can find a bunch of right-wingers planning to storm the Capitol or kidnap the governor of Michigan or whatever. It's just that they don't want to. So in short, reform Section 230 and maybe start looking at breaking up some of these companies using antitrust laws. And finally, we have the Yang Gang. Yesterday morning, former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang officially joined the race to become mayor of New York City. Yang, who has been criticized for his lack of engagement in both civic and political life in NYC before deciding to run for mayor, also got out to a sort of rough start after he gave a sort of strange comment to an interview in Politico. He's going to be cast as out of touch, and that interview will give the critics some ammo when it comes to that, but he has legitimately lived in New York City since 1996. Some of his stated positions include a version of the universal basic income that made his presidential campaign so, revolutionary or so notable. For New York City, he said he would target 500,000 people and start, quote, providing those who are living in extreme poverty with an average of $2,000 per year. He also wants to make New York fun again, with a plan to make the city more affordable for local artists and just creatives in general. His website says, quote, our administration would also work to attract content creator collectives, such as TikTok hype houses, where young artists collaborate. We need to help create similar artist collectives that utilize new technology. And he also proposes a new position in the city government, Deputy Mayor of Entertainment, Nightlife, and Culture. He also says he wants more accountability from the NYPD and that he wants to take control of the city's public transit system back into the city government's control instead of the governor's. He also got a brand new Congress member, Representative Richie Torres, to serve as his co-chair on his campaign. The article makes a big deal out of this because Yang doesn't have any experience in city politics, but he was a major contender for president, so I get it. He'll have to contend with some other people who are already in the race, including former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Sean Donovan, Brooklyn Borough President and former NYPD Captain Eric Adams, former Citigroup Executive Ray McGuire, NYC Comptroller Scott Stringer, and I can only think of It's Always Sunny when I hear Comptroller.
Okay, I just got off the phone with the city clerk. Turns out there's an election coming up. Local, small-time anybody can run.
What's the position?
South Philly, Zone 2, District 37, Comptroller.
Nice. What's a comptroller?
Who gives a dude? We're doing it for the bribe. I nominate Dennis.
And Maya Wiley, who is a former legal counsel to Bill de Blasio, and who you also might recognize better from MSNBC. She used to appear on there a ton, but I'm pretty sure she had to resign after she declared that she was going to be a candidate because it's some sort of conflict of interest. Yang has already started to test drive his universal basic income approach by founding Humanity Forward, which is working on giving hundreds of working families in New York $1,000 a month to determine how effective that would be. I don't know. I wouldn't count him out. I don't think he's any less worthy than any of the other candidates. I did like him as a candidate, and he had sort of a cross-politics appeal. There was a lot of Trump supporters who said that they would be Yang voters if they had a second choice. He was second behind Bernie in that category of voters. I'm excited. He seems like a guy who made it big, but also understands what normal people go through still. Alright folks, that's all I got for you here today and for this week. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to follow me anywhere you want on social media at Quick News Daily, and spread the word by telling a friend or three to get them listening to a news made for the 21st century. Also, don't forget about the weekly recap show that comes out tomorrow, Quick News to Go. But otherwise, until Monday, folks, stay safe, stay home, and take care.